Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Welcome to Sketchbook Sunday, and this painting has a story to tell. Mostly a tale of frustration and woe, but I'm going to tell you the tale anyway. So this painting started off as my weekly Watercolor Wednesday video. I had the inclination to paint a very loose and airy watercolor bouquet. So I'm starting off by splashing some water on my hot press watercolor block here. This is the Paul Rubens hot press block. I think it's 7 inches by 10 inches. And I just drew a vase shape using some cobalt teal color and this lavender color. Now, but the paints that I'm using are the Paul Rubens Floral Set tubed paints, and I thought they would be really nice for a delicate, airy, light composition. So I started just adding in some colors, splashing in some colors, letting the water do its thing, because I really just wanted to have a relaxing time at the paint table, and I just thought that, if I embraced it with an open heart, that a beautiful painting would emerge. That was my plan. And if you remember, my #1 tip for watercolor painters is to have a plan. I don't think this was enough of a plan. I had a reference photo. I'll try to remember to link that up below. But it just wasn't flowing for me. I mean, the paint was flowing, that's for sure, but the idea was there, but it just wasn't happening. And I have a couple reasons why I think it wasn't happening. For one, I had been very productive this week. I'd been working on filming a new class, and most of my time had been dedicated to that because I had pretty much everything pre-filmed for my blog and my YouTube channel, except for my Watercolor Wednesday video. So it was Wednesday afternoon about 2 o'clock, and I realized I have got to get this done. It's going to be up at 5 p.m. That's when people look for my videos, and I try to meet people's expectations. And I sat down to paint this, and it started to go awry. It was not, what was happening on paper was not matching what was in my mind's eye. I didn't have a pencil sketch on my paper, so I didn't have those hard, rigid lines to adhere to. And so at this point, I decided I would go in with some darker paint. And it frustrated me so much because I didn't want colors this dark in this painting. I wanted it to be very light and delicate. So I was already kind of frustrated with myself that I had to go this route. So I'm going in and throwing in some of the kind of heart-shaped hydrangea leaves, thinking that's going to help me balance things out, and it's going to help me place my flowers and just give me a little bit of structure, because that's what this picture was missing. I didn't have the structure, and I was fighting that the entire time. Now, some people can sit down and they can, flick their water on their paper and just see what happens. And they can get blobs, and they can turn those blobs into flowers or doodles or abstract compositions. And I envy that. I think it's a wonderful trait. It looks so fun. But for me, I like to have a little bit of I like to have a plan. I have the picture composed in my mind usually first. And then the challenge to me is to make it look like what's in my mind on the paper, and it was not happening today, folks. So I also got frustrated with my waterline because it should have been an ellipse, and I had it kind of straight across. I didn't have any curve to that line to be able to open it up so I could see the water surface. That's something I love seeing in a still life. If there's water in a vase, I love to see that ellipse where you've got that reflected light on the surface of the water. And I love how the water magnifies the stem and it's skinnier up above. And I've just taken that pleasure away from myself by putting that line in straight. So of course, part of me is like, oh my gosh, I've got to get something up by 5 p.m. So I'm frustrated with myself. I'm frustrated with the way this is going. I'm making some foolish mistakes, and I'm just getting more and more annoyed with myself, but yet I'm thinking I'm going to push through. I am going to make this work. We're going to fix this, and I'm going to, what do they call that in hockey? A hat trick or something, when you pull something off that's really unexpected and crazy and against all odds. I don't know my sports analogies, but anyway, yeah, it was not happening. There was no hat tricks here. But then I decided, okay, I need some structure. That was really what I was fighting with. So I went and grabbed my watercolor crayons, and these are the Dina Wakley scribble sticks. And here's another thing that kind of annoyed me. I bought these. I could not wait to have them. I saw them when they were invented or introduced at CHA a couple of years ago in videos, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get those. As soon as they came out, I bought them, and I've used them like maybe 3 times. So I was just annoyed with myself that I went out and bought something that I hadn't used, and it's just been sitting around and gathering dust. And those are up here in my office. The watercolor crayons I prefer are downstairs, my Caran d'Ache, but I didn't want to go downstairs. I decided I really wanted to use these because I haven't really used them that much. And I knew they would work on top of the damp paper. My my heat gun had died. My favorite heat gun had just stopped working. They happen. They burn out after a while. I use mine a lot. So every 8 years or so, I need to buy a new one. And so I've been using my one that I don't like quite as good. My subpar heat gun has been going up and downstairs, and it's never where I need it to be. So I'm like, I am just going right on this damp paper. I am not going to hunt that down. I am not going to dry this. I am going to push ahead, onward and upward, as they say. And I am just, using those sticks. And honestly, I realized they work way better on dry paper, or they work better if you take a wet brush and you pick up the color with them and use them like a pan of watercolor. But I am determined to salvage this. And I'm just throwing anything I can find at this poor painting. I'm putting some of that yellow in the sky. The colors are nice and vibrant when you put them on dry paper and you liquefy them. I like that. And I just figured, well, at least it's going to get these supplies used a little bit more, even if I don't get anything else accomplished out of this painting. So I'm just really having fun. I decided to do some spattering. At this point, I'm like, yeah, this is not going up on YouTube. This is just going to, I actually have a folder on my computer. It's called Hot Mess. And that's where this went. Actually, I think I put everything I recorded Wednesday afternoon in the Hot Mess folder. But then I grabbed some white gouache, and lo and behold, I liked what was happening there. My glass became a solid vase, and it had shininess to it, and I got that surface of the water back that I wanted, and things were going pretty well. So it's like just at the point where I'm like, I'm giving up on this thing, and I'm just throwing some stuff at it, then I start to like it. So I was a little encouraged, but I didn't feel like it was, well, there's a couple of reasons I didn't want to post it on Wednesday. I didn't feel like it was watercolor enough. I felt like I had too many other things going in that an average watercolor painter wouldn't have. And then they'd be frustrated because they wouldn't, I don't think anyone would want to recreate this, but if they did, they wouldn't have the things on hand to do it. And also I was concerned about the length of it. It was getting pretty long, and I didn't feel like the payoff for the length of that real-time tutorial would be worth it for anyone to watch. So I just decided that I was going to record something else. A couple more bad paintings later, I did come up with something that was worth posting. But I put this away for a while, and then I decided to come back to it with fresh eyes and fresh supplies. So something, after giving my eyes a break from this, I realized it's still a structure thing with me. It's still not having enough definition or enough, it doesn't even have to be definition, not having the design firm or solid or true enough. It's kind of like a crooked house. That's how this felt. Like it's going to fall over any moment. There's nothing level and square and supportive about this. It's just too flimsy. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to go in with a waterproof black pen. So I have, I used the Jane Davenport brush marker. It's the skinny one. She has the skinny one and the one that looks like a quill, and as far as I can tell, they both seem to be about the same. So I used that to do some really thick outlining on the leaves and the vase, the things that I wanted to be more heavy and solid, and I like that. It did have a much more illustrative look to it, but I really thought that helped this quite a bit, and I was enjoying it. And then I had these, I think these might be Feud pens. They came in a Smart Art box a couple years ago, and I always liked the pens, but I've never been much of a black pen artist. But these are waterproof, and I just love the flexibility and the feel of these pens. So I'm like, you know what the heck, I'm using them on here. I did a little cross hatching under the vase for some nice weight and solidness, and I was really liking what was happening here. And then I brushed a little watercolor over my cross-hatching, and it didn't bleed the pens, but it gave it a nice little kind of a bridge mid-tone. And then I was using the scribble sticks kind of like a watercolor. There's a really pretty, I only have the first 12 set of the scribble sticks because clearly I didn't use them enough to justify buying the others, but there are some really nice colors in there. I'm glad they have all the bases covered, but there's a nice, like almost like a denim indigo color that worked really well for the shadows on the highlights, and the yellow worked really nice for the highlights on those leaves. So shadows on the leaves, highlights on the leaves. So I was really liking that. and I was liking the vibrancy of the colors that I was getting. It was a little heavier, well, it's way heavier than what I intended it to be, but I'm glad that I pushed through and I came out with something that I felt good about. Now, I did show the painting at what I was calling the hot mess stage before I came in with the pens and came back to that later on my Watercolor Wednesday video, and I had surprisingly a few people ask me to post this. I felt like it was too long to ask people to sit through the real-time version of it, but I thought, you know, if I could walk through this on a Sketchbook Sunday and really talk about where I went wrong, the mistakes that I made, and how I fixed it to be a picture I was happy with, that I thought it would be worthwhile and worth, you know, 11 or 12 minutes of somebody's time. So hopefully you find this useful, because I certainly did struggle with this a lot, and I don't think there's much use in me pretending that I'm a perfect artist or a creator or painter who doesn't make mistakes. I mean, how's that supposed to make anybody else feel? Nobody is a perfect artist. Everybody makes a hot messes. I don't care who you are making some hot messes, even if you don't show them to the world, and that's fine. That's how you learn. I'm going to take away some of these techniques. I'm going to take away some ways that I used the scribble sticks and those pens. I'm going to use those pens more, because I really got a lot of pleasure out of using those in this painting. And when you get to the point where you have nothing left to lose on a painting, it's very freeing, and often you create some really cool stuff. So so I don't regret this painting, even though I wanted to just, you know, throw it in the fire pit when I was like halfway through it. But I really like how it turned out, and I like how I could bring a positive outcome to this, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas of what to do if you're feeling that same like loss of structure, loss of definition in your painting. Those are some tricks that you can try. I hope you enjoyed this today. Please give me a thumbs up if you did, and let me know what you think in the comments below. I appreciate you watching. It means the world to me, and so thanks. And until next time, happy crafting.